good to see you all again.
And back to the 80s.
Indeed, yes. Wow.
What an episode.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and we're all missing our shoulder pads. What's going on, people?
I dug through my wardrobe but couldn't find anything. But I have got a Jersey t-shirt that I made on. Where's yours on you? You made something this week, didn't you?
I wore it yesterday. Oh.
Yeah, my second jersey. This is out the jersey you got me, Ting. The second one I've ever made now.
It's looking good.
Look at that for a neck.
Very good. I don't know why
the t-shirt's not too bad either.
Oh yeah, my hemming's a bit rubbish though. Obviously white stitches because I didn't have anything else to put in my overlocker.
I was going to say, do we know somebody that has a sewing shop that could help you out?
But yes, wasn't it a great episode? Music, fast-paced editing, and gripping saga.
After a couple of weeks where it's been a bit kind of predictable and a bit kind of just plodding along, this week we were back to full throttle, suspense, cliffhanger.
Yes.
What do we think of the use of music? Because it was a themed week, we obviously had the 80s music. It's popular anyway with 80s music, but how do you think that impacted on the show compared to the normal sewing bee, instrumental background music?
I think they made more of it, but that's because it was 80s week. So I think the music was a little bit louder, and it was obviously much more familiar to everyone what the music was, and they tied it in with some of the challenges, and it just meant that perhaps you didn't notice the kind of downtime that you sometimes get in between, because you were singing along and having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
But I felt as well the contestants were having fun as well. Did you get that feeling from this whole episode?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, most of them. There were obviously moments of
God, yes.
Frustration?
It's like the right word.
I mean, it was a great episode for that, but there was one moment, and then obviously towards the end, where we were on the edge of our seat, weren't we?
I was threatening never to watch again if someone got sent home, and I was infuriated if they were going to send that person home.
It wouldn't be like you to be dramatic now at all.
We'll talk about that
later.
in
hand, ready to throw.
Yes, definitely. From that point of view, it was a great episode. But there was also that horrible moment that was so awkward to watch, painful to watch, but so revealing as well about the pressures of the show.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and I thought it also revealed a lot about that person. I know we're being very cagey because we're saving it, but it revealed a lot more about that person and how much they really obviously care about what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this goes.
You don't want to produce something slipshod. You want to do your best, and when it's not going your way. We've said it before on every other challenge that if you were doing it at home, you would simply put it in the cupboard for a couple of days and go back. But, this is a competition, and the stress of having it done in a certain time frame just pushes you over the edge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
clearly this person had a vision of what they wanted, and it would have been magnificent. But
we'll come to that, I'm sure.
We will indeed. So the pattern challenge, the ladies' power jacket.
Yep.
Great one, hey?
Yeah. I've got my notes. So this was all about big lapels and shoulders. And we were told to think Thatcher, Diana and Joan Collins, which I think were all very good references for 1980s power jackets.
Yeah.
Massively so.
When we were at school, when I was teaching, we would often go to the theatre, and one of the shows we would go to watch, if we could, was Carol Churchill with Top Girls. And Top Girls was written about the 80s, and the lead character, whenever you see her, she's always in that wonderful sort of 80s power dress jacket, because she's at top sort of exec at work. And that it is a great image, isn't it? Those lapels and the shoulders.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Patrick pointed out as well that the whole, part of the challenge was also to create a great silhouette. You need that triangle that comes from the shoulder pads down to the nipped-in waist that's pulled in quite tight and fitted. And that's what they were like. That was the point of those jackets.
Yeah, and they did trickle down, because my mum had a magnificent leather one, and she had a 2-piece suit type, with the fitted stuff. It was fabulous, but it had these big puffy massive shoulders and came in with the 2-button. Oh, it was magnificent. It was class.
So
Yes.
I suppose a key point about that look is, well, it's like that Chanel look as well, isn't it? Wool fabric, or wool and a bit of synthetic, or synthetic. And I think that was where some people went wrong on that challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and you really needed, for that, you needed a higher kind of wool content, because that will help you with the shaping of it. And we saw with Nicole choosing her PVC, which you knew straight away that was never going to press properly. And we'll come to perhaps the outcome later on. But then you compare that with someone like Matt, who chose that really heavy woolen orange one, which initially I was like, it looks like a carpet. But then as he started to pull it together, it really held its shape. And that's what pays off if you've got that balance.
It was massively 80s. Like, you looked at it and I was like, oh yeah. That is right out, literally off a carpet onto somebody's suit jacket, out the door. Fabulous.
And him and Matt looked great from the offset, really, didn't they? With their choice of fabrics, the colour.
Yeah.
They were doing really well with that. Therese was another one that didn't go down the wool route. She had some sort of cotton, didn't she?
Yeah, she had satinized cotton.
Oh, right. Yeah. So
that was super lightweight.
She obviously made a decision with that, whether she must have used it before, I presume, why she chose it.
Probably, but again, we've said about trying to take risks, trying to stand out. I can understand why she perhaps wants to do that, but with something like this, it has such a defined silhouette that if you can't get those creases in there, don't use that fabric. Matt stood out because of that, the colour and vibrancy of it. We didn't really care what the fabric was. It stood out because of the colour and it held its shape. So her choosing that blue satinised cotton, it was never going to hold its shape. She could have gone for a blue, any other fabric, and it would have been absolutely fine. And I think sometimes that's where you have to think, what am I making? What is the right material to do this with?
And I think that's where...
because we did mention Nicole choosing the PVC. I obviously remember my mum's leather power jacket, but maybe because leather's more heavy duty and it's going to be a bit stiffer, maybe it would work better. Or if she had more time, it would have worked better. But I have seen power jackets in that really 80s leather, like white.
Yeah, but the leather, anything that's a natural material, you'll bend into shape. The leather will bend and fold into shape. PVC is plastic, so it will just pop back out to where it wants to be.
But I can understand where she was coming from, getting that 80s vibe. I'm guessing they don't have leather in the haberdashery, and she went with the next best thing in her mind.
Yeah.
So I can kind of understand.
I suppose the 80s, those man-made fabrics were coming out, weren't they? They were, they were there. So you could perhaps.
I mean, Nicole did some good sewing, because, like they pointed out, even when they looked at the seam on her collar, she hadn't got it where you could see the red spilling over into the black. She'd got a very nice seam in there, but of course it just wouldn't lay flat because it wouldn't fold back on itself. And so she'd done quite well in terms of sewing with such an awkward material. But it was never going to have the shape of the jacket that it needed to be, which is why, when you talk about, well, I mean, not that I would ever, but you would have like PVC trousers and skirts. They're flat items. They don't need to hold a shape. They're filled when you put them on. But a jacket with a collar and cuffs and everything, it needs to be moulded. And you can't do that with PVC.
So out of those 6 contestants, we've got Nicole and Therese already on dodgy ground with their choice of fabrics. The other 4 seem to be actually, right, I've got the pattern, I've got the wool fabric, let's just make it. And they just made it. Perhaps that's what worked so well. They didn't do any other kind of risk-taking, did they?
No, I mean, I jotted down at the beginning, it was 14 pieces. So when you cut that out, you can't be messing around. You're going to have bits all over the table. So you've got to be confident in the fabric that you've got and that you know what you're doing, because 14 pieces, it'd be really easy to put something on back to front, or, you know, like we did the other week where someone put the sleeves on the wrong way. So you end up skiing backwards.
Exactly. Everything's on the hook.
What do you think about, I mean, when I was looking back over my notes, I didn't write much about Liz. Was she overlooked?
I felt that. I thought that she disappeared, and I'd actually written down, what is Liz doing in my notes? And then literally as I wrote that, she popped up with some hideous brown fabric that she was using.
What do you think?
The only notes I have with Liz is, shoulder pad not quite right. Good though.
I mean, I think it's telling that she probably wasn't having a bad day because they didn't feature much of her. But equally, her bad day was that fabric. I was just like, what have you chosen?
I mean, we've
for all the times that she's used black, this is the one time she probably could have done.
We talked about this before with the editing. I suppose if you, it's the type of person as you're making the product, because there were a couple of funny moments with Joe and Matt, weren't there, you know, with the health and safety man. So I suppose if you're just getting your head down and you're not doing anything wrong, or you're not joining in, you're not going to make the cutting room. Well, you are. You're going to be on the cutting room floor, aren't you? You're going to be cut out.
Yeah.
Very much so. And it's the same with the likes of Claire. She's generally pretty quiet, but then I loved it when she put on her jacket. I own 51% of this company. I was like, yes, Claire.
Yeah, really good. And it was a great jacket as well. So it was great to see it coming to life then. Because they all had their sort of influences, didn't they? What did Claire say? It was her grandma.
Yeah.
For that
I think they all had as you say, they all had little bits of history, so to speak, that sort of helped them along the way. And
Mark's was Scylla's, wasn't it? Oh,
yeah.
You could imagine that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
He chose a very nice fabric. I think we said it was very Chanel-esque, that kind of pearlescent, you know, pearl coral type thing. You think you put a nice little black bit round it, you've got a Chanel suit on the way.
I mean, this was the first as well, wasn't it? The first official tailoring challenge. So really proper tailoring techniques with the darts and with that wool fabric. So it was interesting to see how they coped with that. And actually, I suppose, other than the two using different fabrics, man-made fabrics, they actually did the challenge well, didn't they?
Yeah. Everybody kind of was fine.
And it was, like you said, it was the first time they'd done tailoring. And of course, the only thing that worries me about Mark is that if you remember, he chose to ignore the notches on his pattern, and then he got pulled up for his sleeves because, of course, he hadn't matched the notches up. And you just think it's those little things. It's not the fact that he, you know, the hem or anything like that. It's this in the construction. And Patrick and Esme are going to pick up on that when it doesn't sit right. And you know, that's where you think he missed out. If he'd have done his notches, he didn't come at the bottom or anything, but he would have done much better with his, you know, just by following the instructions.
Well, you could argue, well, we had Matt first, Claire second, Liz third, Mark fourth, Nicole fifth, and Therese sixth. You could argue, had Nicole and Therese chosen correct fabrics or better choice of fabric, that might have pushed Mark down.
Yeah.
Because you know, because of those notches not being in place.
But I think if he'd have got his arms right, it probably would have pushed him over Liz. I don't know if he'd have got past Claire and Matt, but it certainly would have probably got past Liz.
But Claire and Matt, I mean, as that challenge was developing, you could see how great they were. I mean, they were stunning, weren't they?
Yeah. I think this is where Claire's going to come into her own of following good patterns and having that logical approach and that good structure. And tailored clothes, don't forget, like vintage clothes were quite tailored. The types that she wore, they had that nipped in waist and they have that shape as well. So I think that definitely stood to her.
She really is coming out now. A good contender for the final three, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we're getting there quite quickly, aren't we? I mean, we've only got 2 more to go, haven't we, until...
Yeah, next week there is 5, which is the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
The week after is 4 left, the semi-final. The next third week is the final. There's only 3 left, so we've got 3 episodes to go.
I'm sad.
It seems to have gone very quickly, because when you consider there was a couple more sowers, or another 1 or 2 sowers this year, I thought this is going to go on. Whether it's just lockdown fever as well.
Yeah, we're all losing our minds. So
let's move on to the transformation challenge then. The disco theme, wasn't it?
Yes, this was so much fun to watch.
Oh,
Joe just being ridiculous was hilarious, but some
Yeah.
of the outfits were magnificent.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like really ridiculous or really good. I thought Claire really stood out in this one for me. I was like, yes, girl. She got it and she went with it. It was really good.
It was a great challenge. I did feel, though, that all, other than Claire's, they were all a bit rubbish. Did you not think?
But they were just gloriously ridiculous. Come on,
Yeah.
they were so dodge. Come on.
The transformation challenge always is a bit rubbish, though. But I think what you saw was, ironically, and this is where I kind of was like, I don't understand why you're doing it. They made it clear that, you know, if it's going to be like 80s inspired, they wanted to see colour blocking. They wanted to not see all like the sequins and things, because the 80s was all about, you know, bold colours. It wasn't about seeds. I know you could argue, if you look at Dynasty, and even with some of the stuff they did in the last challenge where you've got all the lame fabric, it was there in a certain way, but not with all of this high vis stuff. And then ironically, it was like Therese and Nicole, who were probably the two that have lived through the 80s, who then went crazy with all of these extra bits and pieces.
Yeah, but
and I was like, I don't understand why you're doing that.
No, but they had families during the 80s.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
different completely. And don't forget, we discovered when we were talking with Janet last week that they're not told. They're basically went, here's some stuff, go.
Yeah.
They're not given the instructions that they talk about afterwards.
So what was the challenge? It was to make an 80s style party outfit, wasn't it?
From 3 items.
And that's where I felt, as the challenge went on, did they forget that it was a party outfit? Because some of them were kind of not party-ish. But and as you said, Anya, it's they cut away, and Patrick and Esme then said they want Wham. You know, you could do Wham style short shorts or graphic geometric shapes. Talking about graphic and geometric shapes, here's some pictures of me in the 80s with
very graphic
and geometric shapes. Look at that rugby shirt.
Oh, that's pretty slick. I'm loving the braces. Very fabulous.
The look you put together is amazing.
And those short
shorts. Right into all of your clothes.
That's clearly the early 80s there, me in those short shorts. But I can remember wearing, well, it's those kind of short rugby shorts as well. You know, they were that was all we wore in the summer. So I can remember being in those. So I was a bit gutted that we didn't see many more short shorts in those bright colours. But Mark had a go.
I think possibly they went for, or I don't know if they had to, I didn't make a note of that, but they went for female. I think if you'd gone for a male, you probably would have done a short with like a t-shirty, you know, vested type thing. But but they all seem to make something for a female. So I don't remember them saying it had to be female.
No, I only heard 80s style party outfit.
Yeah,
that's what I've written as well.
Which some seem not party-ish. So let's go through those. So we had Matt and his sort of pencil skirt. Would you call it?
It wasn't quite. I don't know. It needed a wee bit more structure, or, you know, nipped in a bit to be a bit more pencily.
Although he had his boob tube with the
easy
access.
That was hilarious. His breastfeeding boob tube.
And the sort of ASSI logo as well. So that was classic 80s. Mark and his roller disco that he was talking about. I used to love going to those. Did you go to roller discos? Well,
no.
I've got a very high centre of gravity. I can't, you know, go on coasters.
You just have high gravity days, full stop.
I'm a tad older than you. You were a bit younger in the 80s, weren't you, Anya?
Yeah, I was still under the age of 10. So
Oh, I remember it.
However, there is a roller disco that happens not too far from where we live, and I've been asking Simon to go for ages. So maybe once all this lifts, we'll go for the crack and just fall down.
88 for me, big years, because I just started high school, and obviously Kylie and Neighbours were everywhere. But roller discos down the local leisure centre, and you literally had in the top corners perhaps 3 different colour lights that might just swoosh around. Oh God, they were good old days. That's where you see neon came out everywhere.
Where I was, even though I didn't go, we had a proper roller skating hall, and you could go and have your birthday parties there. Rollerberry was where everyone went, and it was all set up as a proper roller disco 24/7.
Wow.
So cool.
I went once, I fell over, I never went back again.
I remember getting roller boots for one of my birthday presents. God, I'll have to try and dig them out. I'm sure I've probably still got them in the garage somewhere. So Mark went for those shorts in his roller disco look, the shorts and the top, but they were sort of judging him, saying the two didn't really match, did they?
It was too disconnected, and he put that netting, which was an 80s thing, but he just put it as a flat thing over the top, and it just didn't do anything.
It was very amusing.
Yeah. Then we had Liz, and she had her sweetheart neckline, which I thought was very Madonna-esque.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to do something a bit more with that, but then it didn't. It seemed to fall away down.
Yeah, weird puffy skirt, like that was really weird. She should have tucked it. If she tucked it under and lifted it a bit, it would have been really kind of cool.
If Liz had put her top with Mark's short shorts, we probably would have been all right.
Again, I felt she was not sort of looked upon much. Just the way it goes.
To be fair, there was plenty of car crashes going on. She was just the least.
It was hilarious. It was so funny.
Now, how do you feel about Therese and her Bucks Fizz skirt? Because I thought, great, you've got something from the 80s here, something that you could really reproduce, and she just failed to understand about the bit underneath, the hidden bit, didn't she?
She made the bit underneath too short. She threw all of those sequins onto that Hi Vis material, which just wasn't appropriate. If she'd have concentrated more on getting that Velcro bit right, then I think she'd have stood a much better chance. But you don't do an underskirt that gets ripped off to then have your rear end completely exposed.
That's true. That's very true.
It's a completely different party.
It was a gladiator style thing as well, so it wasn't even a proper...
I thought
covering of any sort, really.
I thought it needed to be shorter, because when you whip off the front bit, it's supposed to reveal something skimpy. But as you say, I thought it was too long with the gladiator bits in front.
No, that was definitely no. It was her.
That was fine. It was a bum that was out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When they turned around, you could actually the bum was right out. I'm like, okay, maybe put some shorts on.
A great idea, but I thought that might have saved her for that round, because that was really the only, I felt, 80s real link compared to everyone else's.
Well,
yeah, but then it didn't did it for her, because she came last, because she'd muffed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt they were really very harsh about the sequence, though. I thought they were okay, they went there, but they were very harsh about it.
But she'd sewn on just those strings of sequins. She hadn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were some hippies and stuff in the 80s that had all the sequins, right?
Well, hippies are 70s, aren't they? So 60s and 70s.
They would have leaked into the start of the 80s.
Not if you're going to have that Velcro skirt. You don't want to rip the Velcro. Grab those drippy things and rip half the top off with it.
Yeah. Or just imagine
you'd be stood there like that.
Yeah. With your bum out. It was terrible.
You wouldn't know where to put your hands, would you? It'd be like Vogue.
Well, speaking of that, Claire with the boobs. I thought Vogue was 1990. Was that sort of technically 80s?
Vogue. Well, Madonna was a crossover, isn't it? She'd got the cone bra she was going for, which I think was fine. I think that was the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, we just said that we didn't allow the sequence because they were in the 70s, so you know.
Yeah, you see, It was the best one, though, I think, wasn't it, Claire's, do you think?
Yes. It stood out by a long mile, I think.
Yes. Yeah. She tried to be inventive with it, but she hadn't gone too far with it. I think Therese probably looked at hers and then suddenly thought, oh, I'll do this. And she probably should have stopped. Whereas Claire kind of had her vision, and when she got there, it was done. And she didn't try to then push it any further.
Yeah. They got carried away with the embellishments, didn't they? I think you're right. What about Nicole's ruching and because she'd gone asymmetric?
Well, I thought she was on to a winner with the top, because I thought, that looks 80s. It's got the ruching, it's got the shoulder off, and then again she put this hideous skirt on the bottom.
Yeah, it was a wee bit random. I kind of liked, as you say, I quite liked the asymmetric and the ruching, but Patrick and Esme were not impressed with the too much ruching, I think they were saying.
Yeah, it was.
They all went crazy with that netting.
Extra bits on, didn't she? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it was a hilarious thing to watch, because it was literally like car crash TV. I'm like, oh my god, what are they doing? This is funny. So I quite enjoyed watching it.
It was, because when they did those cutaways to Top of the Pops, and that sort of is, I can remember those days quite clear, watching the audience or the dancers, and it was just a simple top or a bit of spandex or a tight sort of top with your bottoms and then your leg warmers. There wasn't much embellishment, was there? I can recall.
No, and I know, like you were saying, that Janet said, they literally have no idea what they're doing, and it's very easy in retrospect for us to sit here and go, well, I would have done this and I would have done that. But again, if you think about that, if you look at what you'd been given, you would have done a very simple blocked out top, then you would have done one of those like rah-rah type skirts with all that netting underneath it. You remember you used to have like a wide band, and then it would come out and it would have all the netting underneath, and it was a very short skirt. Out of the material you had, something like that would have been much easier. And I know that's easy for us to say now, but they, when you look at the age profile of the people there, you're thinking there's not many of them that probably remember the 80s.
Or maybe definitely weren't discoing during it, you know what I mean?
No.
I was loving some of Joe's comments. I did have to go on to Google to check his age. He was born in 88.
Right.
He'd be even younger than me.
Because he was making some great 80s comments, wasn't he, as well?
About not knowing anything.
Well...
and so, of course, by the end of that challenge, we had Therese, who has now been bottomed twice.
Yeah, she was 6th, Liz 5th, Matt 4th, Nicole 3rd, Mark 2nd, and Claire top. So we are now going into that last challenge thinking, right, Therese has been in this position before. She's been rock bottom for the first two challenges, and now she's got to get a garment of the week, or she's going, isn't she?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had the potential for Joe's curse, which again we looked for on the text, but it didn't happen.
No, he didn't. But Patrick did, didn't he?
But Patrick was the one that said, Teresa and Nicole are in the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's anyone's if they have a bad day. Second day, or if they have a really good day, second day. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, okay, because we've been here before. I didn't realise how ominous that was going to be.
I know.
And he didn't say any names, did he? He just said, unless somebody has a bad day.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder when they do actually film those little segments, whether they're retrospective or whether they do it as the sewers are still sewing.
I think, as Anya says, I think they know, so they try and do a bit of foreshadowing there. I think you're right, Anya.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and especially in this particular case, because they've already know what outfits they're wearing, so they probably have that set by in case they have to re-record any segments like this. And I think for such certain situations, I reckon they definitely do.
Yeah.
So we go into the made-to-measure round. Then we've got we're on the edge of our seat really, as a Therese fan, thinking, "Oh, what's she going to do?" So it was a cocktail dress challenge. I'm a Dynasty fan, and you're a Dynasty fan, aren't you, Tim?
Yes, there was a lot of lame fabric.
Serious.
I'm going to try and get some pictures of you in your green lame of when you were with a dame in our show. because you're used to being in one, aren't you?
Please don't.
I'll see if I can add them in now, everyone. Take a look.
That was the most hideous fabric ever.
So
I don't think that was a lame. I think that was literally a painted bin bag because there was no breathability in that fabric. I would sweat buckets wearing that.
I'm sure you looked fabulous.
Oh, I looked fabulous until I peeled it off.
So we are going in knowing that we want something big and showing off excess with money. It's those posh, it was only a certain audience that were wearing those cocktail dresses, wasn't it? It was money, it was the elite, it was or what they say, the yuppie.
I got the notes that they said at the beginning. So they were saying, maybe a tight waist. They wanted to see the shoulders in again. They wanted a dramatic silhouette. So Esme and her bows and the puffballs. And they were saying a lot about these peplums on a separate chat that was going on as well. I had 2 or 3 people text me and go, "What's a peplum?" And I was like, "It's the little skirts, skirts that goes over the top."
Go round.
Yeah. But, so that's what they were kind of saying they were wanting to see. And I think we saw it all.
Yeah. I was hoping one person would do something, like, they were all pretty fab, but I was hoping somebody would just go over the top completely and do something massive, which I'm kind of gutted nobody did anything like really extreme, but I can completely understand because they've only got a certain amount of time to do it, but I was hoping that something massive and puffy and huge would come out.
I think Matt potentially had something up his sleeve, but as we now know, Matt had a very bad day because his inspiration was Alexis in her box, wasn't it? The little doll. Alexis doll with the big thing, and it had big sleeves, and of course he cut his sleeves wrong, which was when he had his mini meltdown, and they were just like, "Don't put the sleeves in." But I thought Patrick was brilliant with him, and he was like, "You've got a brilliant dress there, just don't put the sleeves in." And I think his dress still worked, but I think if he'd done what he actually wanted, we might have had that dramatic.
Yeah. So I think Matt just had a very bad day because he mismeasured his top. It didn't meet at the back. He mismeasured the skirt. So he then came to realise, because it was a self-drafted pattern.
That's the thing.
I think that's where...
He said he practiced, though, and it was a self-drafted pattern. So did he perhaps just copy the pattern wrong when he brought it into the studio?
Well, I wrote down that I thought it was really brave that he'd done his own pattern, because I'm sick and tired of seeing these old patterns they found in some charity shop. And I thought, he makes these dresses, he should be able to draft it, and he probably does all of the time. But of course, when you do a self-drafted pattern, it's a lot harder to adjust when he gets there. Because if he was doing a self-drafted pattern for you, he would come round, he'd measure you, and he'd do the drafted pattern, and then it would all work. Whereas he kind of had to do the drafting bit without knowing who that model was until they turned up, and then to them start making those adjustments, it's difficult. Whereas when you've got a bought printed pattern, it's got all the different sizes on, and you can move it around and work it out a lot easier.
And that's where Liz...
This isn't the first time Matt has mismeasured, though. Matt repeatedly ends up with gaps.
Which is why I started to panic.
Yeah, because it's like, this is not the first time he's mismeasured and got it wrong, which is a shame.
But that whole sequence, because as you said, Anya, there were 3 or 4 things. It kept cutting back to Matt, kept cutting back to a new mistake and a new mistake. That was painful to watch when he broke down, though, wasn't it?
I couldn't watch it. I was literally head down. I can't watch the telly. I don't like it when things like that happen.
You can completely understand. It's like, well, if that was me, I would have sat in the corner and just pulled the thing over my head and just had enough. And because it'd be one of them, it's like, that's gone wrong, okay, I'll fix it. That's gone wrong, okay, I'll fix it.
And in a way, it was kind of nice to watch, even though it was painful to watch, because it was the first time we saw a real human there that actually does what we all do, us all normal sort of sewers, So I felt I could relate to that a lot more.
Yeah, and we've all been there where something's been thrown in the corner. But my concern was when he walked out, I thought he'd walked out. And I was like, no, don't do that. Yeah. I thought he was going to do just to keep walking down the road and never come back.
To be fair,
Which is what I would have done.
I was shouting at the telly, going, "Don't waste your time! Come on!"
Well, and this is when we then started to panic, thinking, "Oh my God, no! Patrick said unless someone has a bad day, is this meaning that Matt's to go?"
The thing is no one else was having a massive problem. There were little issues with people's bits and pieces, but if you were to say, right, look at these 6 people, who's having a bad day? It was Matt, and it was like, no, it can't be Matt because he's done so well on those other challenges, and it was just like, no, there's other people who need to go.
Yeah, definitely.
What about Mark's Quality Street, the purple one? It was great. I loved it.
Yeah,
I thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was a good shape and it worked really well. For me, the material just didn't. No, it would look like a fuzzy TV. You know what I mean? It looked kind of weird, but it was a really good shape, and I think overall it worked.
Would his have got a higher sort of applause from the judges had he not had the two-tone effect?
I think so.
Maybe.
I don't think he quite managed to pull that off.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, because was it Esme or Patrick said they liked it? I can't remember.
Esme said she didn't like the colour. She wanted it all one colour rather than the two. But I thought the two was kind of clashy in an 80s light, really.
Yeah, it definitely was. Definitely very clashy.
So let's come down to Therese, because obviously Therese, for the lingerie week, she was bottom for the first 2 challenges, and she then pulls out that lovely final piece, and she got Garment of the Week for it. So technically, she needed a stunning dress or whatever, cocktail dress, to try and get her out of being in the danger zone. What did you think of her design?
I didn't like it.
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Let's hear each one. On, you go first. What did you like about it?
I just loved it. It had that, again, we come down to that silhouette and that lovely flow afterwards. I loved it. It was kind of swishy, and I love the fact that it was also one that you could wear either way. So you could, I'm taking the skirt off here, I'm not just doing weird things, but the fact that she could remove that long flowy bit and it had the little black dress underneath, because everybody needs a little black dress. But I think as well, if she had done the bow, it would have been better. But I actually quite liked the gold as well, because it reflected the gold underneath, and I thought it tied it really nicely together. Okay. But I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really nicely structured, added a bit of swish, and it was very high impact, I think.
Okay. Ting?
Quite classy.
Let's hear the opposite.
Well, I did like the silhouette of it, and that was one of the things they were being judged for. But I didn't like the way that the peplum came with the 2 gold bits at the front, which Esme pointed out. I thought it made her look like a waitress because everything was black, and then you saw this like what looked like a little gold apron in the front. And I can understand, I mean, she'd already had a very unsuccessful Bucks Fizz moment with the removable skirt before, but I just felt that the stuff that other people had done, like with Mark doing his bit that wrapped around and everything, they'd had to make everything and sew it all together, whereas she made a black skirt, and then she made, a black dress, and then she made the peplum to go round. And yes, they were well sewed, but everyone else had constructed everything into one piece. And when you took that peplum off, it was just a black dress. It wasn't anything that was mega 80s that you thought, oh yeah, that's now really stunning with that off. The silhouette looked good. I didn't like the gold waitress apron, but I don't think it should have been removed. I think it should have been permanent and shown off more of her sewing skills.
But I think surely you would have had to finish it off more because it was removable rather than joining it. So you would have had to do more sewing by making it removable. Yeah. And don't forget as well, she did have her big bows as well, so there was something 80s about it.
Yeah, and you're
talking about that really fitted structured dress. Her really fitted structured dress was the best fitting out of all the dresses, I thought.
Yeah,
it was just a black dress with 2 huge bows on that didn't look right. I'm sorry.
But it was very 80s. That's what they're looking for. Esme loved the big bow.
They could have been a bit bigger myself. I didn't know whether they were a bit too small, so they felt like little things.
Maybe.
But I
don't know.
I agree. I mean, I loved it, but to me,
Yeah.
that where the two gold bits met, it was very reminiscent to me of like Egyptians of Potiphar from Joseph or something. It was like, yeah, it looked a bit odd.
Yeah, I loved it.
But
It
we're
almost had a
obviously
lovely, almost fire effect.
so. I think because it was, I think, yeah, I agree on you. It was great. We're now panicking, aren't we? Because we're now thinking, oh my God, is she going to get, be saved again?
Yeah.
Well, you
with
see,
Matt going.
I obviously didn't like it, and then I made a note of. I actually wrote, "Don't like it. It looks like a waitress. Don't think she's done very well." And then I had to write next to it on my notes, "Oh my God, they like it." And that's when I started to panic because I'd convinced myself she'd been in the bottom twice. This didn't look quite right to me. And I thought that's enough to send her home. And when they likes it, I was like, now we're in trouble.
Yeah. So we've
Matt,
not also we talked about her Matt.
So Nicole.
Wow. She got away with that really well.
Well, yeah.
I have to say, I loved it.
Oh, I really didn't. I did not like it.
Oh, I thought it was stunning.
I know what she was trying to do, but I don't think the finish was as good as they made it out to be.
Yeah, right. I did not like the colour choice.
Colour was fine, and I could see what she was trying to do, and I can see that totally as an 80s thing. But she hadn't quite got the shoulders right, and we know that because she'd cut it wrong.
Yeah.
She'd even admitted that, and I thought, oh, they'll pick up on that because they do that. And they didn't, and I think that's partly because the shoulder pads helped to hide that.
Yeah.
And that's where I just thought, hang on a minute, you've got to be more consistent with your judging. They pick up everyone else when they do tiny little mistakes, because a couple of weeks ago, someone had put a sleeve in wrong, and they were like, oh, that's really terrible. And I thought they were going to pull her up on it. And then they go and make it garment of the week, and I was disgusted.
I couldn't.
But to be fair, when the sleeves were put in, they didn't look reversed. They didn't look ridiculous on the model. So she must have managed when she eased them in to get them in a better fashion.
That's the bit.
And then, as you say, she knew she was going to be exaggerating the shoulders anyway. So that wasn't a last minute, oh my God, I have to fix it. That was her already planning, and she knew what she was going to be doing, and she knew that it would compensate.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Well, I don't know. You say that. She knew she was going to do a big shoulder because she'd sewn 2 sets of shoulder pads together. But then when they said, oh, that's a very big shoulder, she was like, oh, it's 2 shoulder pads and 2 bra pads.
Yeah.
And I just thought, is the bra pad the panic bit?
No, because she brought them. No, she had mentioned those at the start, that she brought them.
Right, okay.
She knew that they wanted massive shoulders. She was like, well, you can never have enough shoulder pads. So she had brought 2 bra pads as well.
Right. I didn't know whether that was trying to pad it out.
I still don't fully understand when she was saying, I've done the sleeves wrong. Had she cut out a blue, because obviously it was all blue one side and all one white side.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to be a blue sleeve on a white side, or
that's where I don't understand.
So she cut out the white sleeve.
Yeah.
Should have been, it was technically meant for it. So say the right arm was supposed to be, she'd done the right arm in the left arm material, basically. If you
so in effect, the sleeves were put on the wrong side because they were cut out wrong.
Yes.
But she put them on the right colour side, even though they were the wrong shape.
Yes.
So you've got a left arm on the right side.
Yeah, and the right arm on the left side.
But she cut the material correctly, but she'd cut the wrong sleeve. So the white side she'd cut out of the blue material, and therefore she had to then fudge it to get it to fit properly. Because you couldn't have put the white arm on the blue side and vice versa, because it would have looked ridiculous.
Yeah. But to be fair, she must have been a hell of a sewer if she managed to fudge it enough that they were fine when she eased them in.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking as well. I was like, well, she clearly has skills if she was able to get away with that.
Indeed. As you say, the judges, when they know something's gone wrong during the middle, they never let them get away with it, because the judges then pick up on that, don't they?
Well, especially that challenge, because they're in the room. They're in the room with them.
Watching.
They're always looking at what's going on.
Yeah, but maybe because Matt was having his meltdown at the same time, and it could have got missed.
Could have done.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
don't know. She got away with it.
I still, I mean, we've talked about Nicole right from the beginning and her creativity. I really admire that sequence where she said about, right, you know, I've got to be brave. Got to be brave. I've got to try new things because you obviously then don't know. She has been like that throughout the series, trying different things and techniques. What do you think about that?
I think this week she did the thing with the PVC to start off with, but then everything else seemed to be what it should have been, and she did as she was supposed to do. So I think she's still trying in places to take the odd risk, but she's also learned to toe the line a bit. You know, that was a good dress. You couldn't fault that dress. It just annoyed me that we knew that those sleeves were not right initially. But you know, you're right, Anya. She managed to sort it out, and you know, that's what saved her. Was it good enough to be Garment of the Week? Well, we'll never know. We will never get that close to see. And that's where you have to trust the judges, that they looked at those sorts of things.
Just
and she did have lots of details. Like she had the binding around the wrists, and she had lots of little details that did finish it off. I think the structure of the dress, the overall look of the dress, not to my taste, but you know, fair play, it was very 80s, and it, you know, it did have that symmetry down the back where it just cut right down the middle.
Oh, she's got everything in the right place. Yeah.
Just ignore how she uses the rotary cut at everyone. She cuts towards herself, and it's like, ah.
Yeah.
What that? Oh God, I couldn't watch that moment.
You've got to remember that dressmaking is very different from quilting.
No.
You know, quilting you do go away with because you're always on a ruler. They're cutting round shapes and.
Oh, that's scary though, because we know how sharp they are, don't we? Right, we'll go straight to you then, Anya, with Claire then.
Claire.
Yes, I was all excited about Claire, and then it all went wrong. So I liked her choice of fabric, and I liked the dress. I thought Claire's was quite shapeless, though. I thought maybe the material was too heavy or what, but it didn't fit as well as I think it should have. I liked the overall dress, but I thought it was a bit baggy.
And I think that goes back to what we were saying, though, about some of these others, and that kind of, I mean, it wasn't lame, but that kind of metallic fabric, sometimes it has a lot of give in it and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't quite know which one they were using, but that's why I just felt that all of those, that's why I felt that all of those, so like Mark's and Liz's and Claire's, that had all used that very similar type fabric, I just felt they could have been a little bit tighter. And I don't know if it's because that fabric stretched a bit while they were making it, or you know, whether they were too frightened to take it in and be like Matt, where they left a bit out. But I just felt that they were all a little bit baggy, and they could have all been a little bit tighter. But Claire's especially,
I think it was most noticeable because the weight of that material would have dragged it down and made it...
The puffball pulled it as well, didn't it? So...
Yeah. But I liked her overall dress. But again, we talked about it. She could have done with some netting in her puffy sleeves.
Yes, what did Patrick say? By the end of the party, she would be ending up doing this all night.
Yeah. And then I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember whether it was a TV program or a film. And I remember someone had like one of those type puffball tops, and they just constantly were doing this all the way through the film or this TV program.
And I don't know what it's from.
I couldn't remember.
Or maybe someone can tell us in the comments below. Well, we've talked about everyone there, so we're then in that little reflection moment of, you know, who's going to go. Well, we were on our WhatsApp, something chronic, weren't we?
There was messages pinging, there was slippers poised to be thrown. I was not looking at the screen, and I was effing and blinding if he was going to go. I'd sworn I was never going to watch again if such an injustice happened.
Again, we mentioned you're not dramatic at all, Stuart.
Not at all, no. It was all reasoned argument.
I think the whole nation agree with us and were ready at that same point for walking out if Matt had been sent home. So I think...
Makes you wonder what the viewing figures next week would have been.
Yeah. But I think he did demonstrate, with even though his last dress didn't work out as well as it should have, he demonstrated the fact that resiliency that we talked about that Nicole had. He managed to get that triangle in with his skirt to make sure it worked. He managed to reach at the top, and it pretty much worked. It was a wee bit wide.
I think that's why I felt so strongly, because it had been a self-drafted pattern, which, okay, he made some mistakes with. But like Esme said, when it came to the actual judging, he'd put that triangle in. It looked like it should have always been there because it was in the contrasting golds that he'd used for the peplum. Yeah. He'd sorted out the sleeves, so it didn't look like raggedy old holes there. He put proper, he'd just sewn it up and made sure it did. He had fixed everything and still came out with a pretty good dress. And what we've just said about the drape of that lame type fabric is fitted perfectly. Yeah. If you look at the fit on his, and he was using that metallic fabric, it was there. You then look at Mark's and Claire's and Liz's, where there was a bit of, bulkiness in. They could have gone in a bit tighter. Yeah. He had everything there. He'd had his mistakes, but he'd fixed them all. Yeah. We've had previous weeks where M's hadn't done. Yeah, he'd done the darts wrong there. But that's because he cut it wrong and then put that panel in the back.
Yeah, he did the darts wrong twice.
Yeah. But, if you think, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, Ali didn't even hem hers. There was, people have turned up to that made to measure and it hasn't been finished. Yeah. Everything he had done, he'd fixed and had a finished dress there. Yeah. And that's where I was just like, if they're now going to go after him just because he had a bit of a bad day, I wasn't prepared to watch anymore.
It might have been different had he had not fixed it and had he had an unfinished garment, for sure. But when you look back to Therese, that first power jacket was unfinished. She wasn't just bottom by a smidge. She was a long way bottom, wasn't she? On those two.
And Hi Vis outfits, like we said, hers was awful. She hadn't thought about that underskirt and anything like that. She was rock bottom there as well.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe on that first round, it wasn't because of her ability, it was because of time, wasn't it? She was just too slow. So is it her time? Was it right now for her to go? Because you've got to be quick and have the skills, haven't you?
Yeah. And if you're going to choose difficult fabric, you better be really quick. So she chose the wrong fabric. Didn't have the speed to get it done and done well. So
when we finally heard that Therese was being sent home, I think the nation then did put the slipper and the shoe down, didn't they?
The slipper went down.
Yeah.
Cinderella went to the ball. I slipped it back on.
But did you not get it off, though, again, ready for Garment of the Week? Did you agree with that?
I must admit, I wasn't, because of what we've just said about Nicole's, I wasn't overly pleased. If Matt hadn't had all of the drama with his, I think he would have got it. Because, like I said, the fit on the others, there was always just something a little bit off. It wasn't like there was another clear winner. So in that respect, I suppose it was inevitable.
Because I thought it should have been Matt. It should have been Matt, shouldn't it, for Garment of the Week? That wonderful orange jacket.
Well, it doesn't have to be the made-to-measure one, does it? I think, the jacket could have taken it.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I forgot about that. His jacket was awesome. It was very 80s, with the big button and everything.
Yeah. Or did you think someone else then for Garment of the Week, Anya? Or were you happy with Nicole's?
I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I can understand why she got it.
Yeah.
It was, the details worked really well. She did get everything spot on in regards to down the center, the binding. It worked well. The two different fabrics.
Yeah.
Again, not my choice, but I can understand it.
But no, I felt Matt should have got Garment of the Week with that, because that power jacket was brilliant. It was so good.
Yeah.
So the quarterfinals, 5 people left next week.
So we've got Mark, Liz, Claire, Nicole and Matt. Yeah. That's going to be a tough one now.
I think
this is where Matt needs to keep his cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if he does, who goes? Liz? Or Mark?
Mark is possibly, because he's not, like he did that with the pattern, he didn't match his notches and things like that. And in the past, he's done that where he's run out of time and he just went up and just got
Right,
on.
that's what I mean. I think if as long as Matt holds it together, I think Liz and Mark,
Could be.
based on what we know so far, are dodgy. But as we've seen this week and the week before, you just need an off week.
Yeah.
I thought Ali was going to make it all the way through. She had a bad week and went home.
Yeah, and it's the same with Nicole. Nicole seems to be able to pull it out of the bag, but if she has a bad week, like we've seen in the past where she's had disasters.
Well, depends on how
She's
many
a bit
risks
like
she
Therese
takes.
this week. If she has a bad couple of challenges, it's very feasible that she goes home like Therese did, because Therese has always been good at the made to measure stuff, but she's always struggled on the other two. And if Nicole goes crazy again and chooses wrong fabrics or things, that could be something that goes against her. Will
she carry on taking those risks, or will she just choose correct fabrics? Safe then? Do we think Claire should be a part of the final three?
I think Claire will make it through to the final three.
Yeah, because Claire's pretty good standard of sewing across the board, and as long as she just keeps going, she should be fine.
And I think as long as Matt holds it together, he might make it to the final three.
Yeah.
Really?
But I think the third place is up to... Matt has got good skills. He had if he hadn't had the problem with that gold dress, he'd have had the perfect week this week.
Yeah. But with Matt, something I wrote down is, why are his measurements always out?
Yeah.
Well, that is the thing, isn't it? If he comes back next week and he's out again and it starts to impact on what he can do, you've got to then say, well, how many times do you forgive him for that?
I mean, when you look back over the season, he has consistently been in that sort of middle to high block. I think the orange power jacket was his first time these came first, if I remember rightly. I might be correct on that. So I don't know whether whether he's got enough to be in that top. I mean, it's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but don't forget Claire. Claire, it was her made to measure was the first time she got first. She'd always been quite high. She'd been second or...
Yeah.
So it could actually, as you say, could be anyone's, really.
Yeah, it's going to be
interesting. 5. It's going to be very, very tense, because if I remember rightly last year, there were always we were always looking at Jen. It was those 3 J's, wasn't it? Jen, Janet and Juliet, who we thought were always going to be in those final 3, even when there was only 5 left. They were strong contenders. Whereas actually, with our lot now, it could be anyone, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember I did not like Jen?
No, you didn't. No.
I did.
So actually, you're right. It could be anyone's, really, if they have a great week too.
It's going to be interesting.
Isn't it just?
I think Claire will make it. So we'll just have to keep an eye.
And I think if Mark follows the pattern and does as he's supposed to, I think he would as well. And if he sticks to what he's, because again, he does have really good skills and he does seem to be able to pull out really good garments. And Nicole, if she keeps her head.
Yeah,
they can't all. Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to go.
I think my final 3.
I worry
that
that Matt would hold his nerve. That's the one thing. After this week, I worry that Matt is just going to have a meltdown, or he's going to crack under the pressure. Because God love him, he does seem to feel the pressure a lot. He wants to do the best he can.
I'll go for Nicole, Mark, and Claire as my final 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Nicole.
I think Claire, Nicole, and I don't know who the third person is at the minute.
Oh, you see, I think definitely Claire. I'd like to think Matt.
I'm concerned he won't be able to keep his head.
And who's your third one then, Ting?
I don't know. I mean, it'll be Nicole, because she's been the one I haven't liked all the way through, a bit like last year.
Well, it's wonderful chatting. Yes, so see you all next week for quarterfinal week.
Yes. Look after yourself.
Indeed.
Bye.
Bye.